Thank you all here for joining us on day 2, getting the morning started midway with a topic that I think you'll find some really good takeaways from. We're going to go through some of the context by getting into some examples and really seeing some of these great ways to apply GenAI safely and accurately for some of the most complex jobs that exist within financial services. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. As Joe mentioned, my name is Jay Wilder. I head marketing as well as developer relations at deepset. I'll tell you a little bit about deepset here in just a moment. But about myself, local to the area, I've been working in the data and AI space for some time. And in my current role, it gives me a great opportunity to connect with our real customers, our real development community, to hear what matters to them, and I hope to share that with you today. So a little bit about deepset. Yep, find a spot, plenty of spots here in the front. There's some spots over here. So a little bit about deepset. We've been in the space for a good while. We came into the scene in 2018. So attention is all you need. The first Google BERT models and NLP are coming out. And we jumped on that as an opportunity, seeing applications to start to apply that to business. We started working with organizations like Airbus, like European governments, and started to sort of walk the walk that many of you guys are doing, building applications, really applying this technology to business use cases, and finding out what's hard, but also what's repeatable, what are the patterns. And so through the experience, over these years, we codified our learnings into an open source framework called Haystack. Some of you may be familiar with that here or use it. It componentizes the LLM building process, LLM application building process, so that you have a very modular, swappable, durable solution that you can iterate, change, and evolve over time, because this dynamic in our businesses in the world is always changing, right? So we need to build very flexibly. Over time, we've recognized the other challenges that exist as well, and have continued to build on top of that. So if you look at what we do at deepset here, starting with LLM orchestration, breaking down things like retrieval augmented generation, agents, other types of use cases into building blocks, and then kind of building that up into a series of different services that allow you to have a lot of flexibility in terms of where you host this, what types of data you use, the LLMs of your choice, the integrations of your choice, giving you the framework to build, test, deploy, and monitor these solutions, really as living solutions that live within your business, and then all the way up to ready-made templates and apps so you can just get started really fast. So that's a little bit about where we play in the industry in the space. As I alluded to but didn't mention on the last slide here, this type of approach, this modular building approach, was recently recognized by Gartner in their most recent Cool Vendors in AI Engineering report, citing that this is a really important fundamental way to think about building these applications, is to have that flexibility, to have that freedom of choice, because the industry is innovating every day, giving us new ways to put these solutions together. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about you guys, right? Big opportunity within financial services, looking at the research coming out of McKinsey, out of EY. Over the next several years here, there's basically almost a 5% growth opportunity minimum of applying GenAI correctly within the financial services industry, anywhere estimated between $200 billion to $340 billion over the next few years. Over the next 3 years, it's estimated that 30% productivity gains will be gained within all parts of your business. I'm going to center in on one particular area today that I think is a great place to start and super high impact. But as I've been talking to many of you yesterday and today, there's still some real challenges. The industry rightfully needs to move cautiously, right? These are super sensitive, mission critical use cases and workflows. And being able to access data, guardrail it, make sure that we do this in the right way, to share this information with LLMs and build them into systems that help us work smarter, is still cited as an overwhelming challenge or a majority challenge so far from folks like ourselves here. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about taking advantage of that opportunity. Some of the big use cases that we hear a lot about, and I think you guys are probably working on or talking about, evaluating, exploring, certainly retrieval augmented generation, so the ability to connect data with LLM models and then surround them with the right componentry to make sure that they answer in accordance with your values, your guardrails. That's super important. We're starting to see the agent paradigm come in, so giving more decisioning authority, more reasoning authority to these systems, and allowing them to connect more easily to automate inputs and outputs. And intelligent document processing, which is not a new category. It's something that's been around for some time, but is certainly being re-envisioned and really updated as AI LLMs come onto the scene. This is the area that I'm going to talk to you guys here about to give you a look into what this looks like, what this can look like for your business, and give you some real-life examples of this so we can bring it down to earth and see who's succeeding with this and what does that look like. So IDP. Just a quick show of hands maybe in the room here today. How many folks here are doing IDP in some way? Okay, so a pretty good, healthy amount. How about RAG, just to maybe look at some of the other ones? Okay. Agents? Okay. Kind of expected. So a little bit higher on the IDP. Probably RAG was coming in second, and agents, as that's coming over the horizon, is coming in third. Okay. So if you look at the research on IDP, a great one, by the way, is the new Gartner report, the market guide on IDP. It's a great resource to check in and understand kind of how it's being changed by the advent of LLMs. But basically what we're seeing and what we're hearing from the market is prior IDP solutions are very, very specific to different types of workflows, different types of data, file types, and tend to be more rule-based, kind of more constrained, a little bit rigid. And so, you know, when you look at different software categories, typically there's maybe a few big vendors and maybe there's, you know, a handful of others that are up and coming behind the scenes. This is a category that has more than 90 different vendors, and that's because it is so specialized, because traditional techniques require you to be so specific about solving these different challenges. So reliance on templates, rules gets you to a certain place, but you know, there can be better than that. And I think in terms of getting this information from unstructured data sources that are pretty complex in their nature, there's a lot of room for improvement in terms of analyzing that information and getting the right answers from all these different types of information. So we'll take a look and see what that really looks like. The way that we think about this at deepset, taking advantage of LLMs as they've come onto the scene, is that every business's workflows are unique, right? Every business's culture is unique. Your strategies are unique. Your criteria are unique. They should be, right? That's part of your IP. That's part about what makes you different, right, from other providers. And so a core tenet of how we approach things is customization should be fully available. You should be able to really make these systems adapt to exactly how your subject matter experts work. But that shouldn't require tons of extensive and very hard building. We need to still make that extremely fast and agile. We believe that whatever type of information you're trying to synthesize to make critical decisions on, whether it's coming from tables, text, images, all different types of resources, that should be able to be reasoned over and be able to be processed in a single flow, rather than having to use lots of different tools chained together. And again, we think there's a lot of opportunity here to go beyond just finding the information and helping people get to it, but actually synthesizing it together, just like an analyst would, to serve our very smart and capable humans going through this process, which is typically pretty manual. So if you look at what this looks like as an example, this is just some Nike information. For instance, earnings reports, you're going through different types of earnings calls here. There's press releases, there's analysis. We can bring all this information in just like this, drag and drop, And this becomes our knowledge base. Very simple example, but now we can then put a series of criteria and questions around that data that we want to learn about. And then we can go ahead and process that and understand what all this diverse information in all of its different diverse formats. You saw text, you saw images, you saw tables. This all now comes in a very easy to read format with full sourcing, so you can go and find out where this information is coming from, making sure that it's grounded in the truth. And if you need to go into deeper analysis within those documents, it's all there at your fingertips. No, we see customers going upwards of like millions and billions of files. So yeah, and that example right there is an example of a front-end experience where we're allowing the user to upload that data. In other cases, you may already have a pre-formatted data room or data residency where you want to connect that automatically, and you don't want to have that sort of upload process. But again, this is sort of the customization aspect of it, which is how does your organization work? How would you like this to work? I'll give you an example coming up when we go through a case study on this. I showed you a process there of adding data, selecting questions, and then output. In other cases, you may want to start with the questions first, then add the data and go that way. You may have 3 steps, you may have 5 steps, you may have 7 steps, right? So depending on your organization, this needs to be flexible so it adapts to how you work rather than having to conform, right, to something that's off the shelf. Okay, looks like I'm going backwards instead of forwards. We'll get this right. Okay, so now that you have a little bit of, we've gone through a little context here, we've seen a little bit of a snippet of an example, let's take a look at something in real life. So Credex. So Credex is a customer of ours. They're within the financial space of helping commercial real estate development projects and companies, borrowers, get lending, get approval to be able to build. You can probably imagine the data sets here that go through evaluating, what's a good lending opportunity for the various banks that they serve on the other side of their market. They have to look at lease agreements. They have to look at financial information. They have to look at information about surveys about the land, right? This is a lot of different complex information that, to this point in time, prior to working together, was fully manual, right? Now, their subject matter experts here that do the analysis are also probably some of, they were some of the most skeptical as well, right? Because they understand how difficult it is to do this job, and so they were intrigued and open to exploring AI to help them work, but they were also rightfully had some skepticism to see, like, can it really do this nuanced work that we do? Can it really help us? So to give you a little bit of a sense of what their day in the life looks like, their job really is to synthesize a lot of information and get it into a standardized format so they can package it up and then find the right lending opportunities to facilitate these commercial real estate projects. So within any given submission, so let's say any of you, we want to develop a new commercial property, there will be anywhere from 50 to 100 documents that have to go in to that submission, often going over 1,000 pages of information. And there's at least 150 questions that the team needs to go through to understand what is the right lending scenario for this particular client. And typically they'll find that there's maybe 70 or 80 that are most important, but in generally there's about a battery of 150 questions. And they need to synthesize that down to a memo that's 8 to 12 pages. And there's generally a couple hundred key value pairs, which are things about their financial solvency, it's about the leases, it's about the square footage price, right? So there's a whole bunch of different metrics that go into their analysis that are, I would just kind of characterize as very domain specific, right, to this line of work. Okay, so what do? So we help them build a document processing application, right? So rental agreements, building permits, zoning plans, digital and scan physical records. So pretty difficult data terrain here, information terrain. We're using the LLMs to extract and reason over this document information and to generate these memos we just talked about. And as I mentioned, super important that this comes out right. This has to be accurate. And it's not just on a technical level. It has to garner the trust of these analysts to use it. Otherwise, it's a solution waiting for users, right? So this is really critical criteria for adoption. And so what we built with them is their version of IDP, right? So leveraging our platform, and we also leaned in a bit because it was the first time they were ever building anything with GenAI. And so our expertise, being in the space for a long time, helped them solve through the questions that they didn't know the answers to, but also the questions they didn't even know to ask yet. We certainly went through things like testing different models against each other, looking at different ways to then address the corner cases that the subject matter experts helped us identify that weren't being solved initially as we were going through a prototype to production process. And you can see here in their customized version, just like I was alluding to, right? They actually like to go question first, data second, and then go to output. They like to surround this within the full data room environment, right? So that whole UI aspect plus the back end is something that really morphs and wraps around how they like to work. So, all right. If you look at what that process looked like working together, this is a process that generally takes, I'd say on average, about 90 days going through the process of kicking things off, getting everybody on board, starting the development phase. This is really prototyping with purpose. This is going beyond like a demo. This is actually a real software product, right, that is ready to basically go out and be battle tested with real users. We built that out. We built out 70 different case studies, and we started to bring those analysts in, those subject matter experts. They wound up being our co-pilots in the process to tell us what works, what doesn't work, what do we need to improve. And by the way, some of these folks, they wind up becoming your best advocates, when you're trying to figure out prompt engineering and different tweaks to the system. They know the business. They know how it should work, right? So we definitely want to bring the human and AI intelligence here together. You go through that system refinement. So we collect all that information. We collect all that feedback. And because we're working in a componentized, modular way, we can see how this solution works at every step. And so when we need to make changes and we need to make tweaks, we can do it at this component level. And if a component isn't serving us well, we can flip it and change it, right? If a new partner comes in and we want to add governance and guardrails from that best-of-breed partner, we can do that. If the model isn't doing what it needs to do, even though it was doing the right thing last week, we can change it. If there's different models that do different jobs better, we can do that as well. So you go through that whole process, and that's really what brings you to getting to a state of readiness. How long to upskill? I would say, again, like within these processes, we work with a lot of companies that are doing this for the first time. Within those 90 days, like we work very, very closely together. It's definitely not something where, you go run off and you say, we'll see you at the end of the quarter and we'll bring it back. I mean, you're literally working on it together week by week, right? And it's really important to see how that process works so you can kind of understand, how do you guys look at prompt engineering? What are some of the things? What are those tweaks that you made based on my feedback, right? Even to the set, too, of, if you don't have that team fully built out yet, what are the skill sets? Who are the different people that you guys bring into the scene at deepset so that we can understand what skill sets we should start augmenting our teams with? So I would say, I don't know that the full journey is done in 90 days, but it's a very collaborative process where, at least when we help customers, it's not just about building it, it's about building and learning at the same time and doing it together. In their case, Loretta, are you in the room here today? Oh, yeah. Do you remember what Credix selected as their final model for this? Was it OpenAI or was it Claude? Oh, that's right, yeah. So they're using Claude in this case. And yeah, typically folks will test these out and see how they work. We definitely have seen Claude works really well with numbers. It is able to do things like on the text to SQL side. So if you're going in and getting numerical data as well as unstructured data, it handles that very well. So these are some of the things, again, from an experience that we can help bring to the table and check out. And this was done through, they're a big Amazon user as well. So we did that through Claude in a Bedrock instance. So that's where that was coming from. Yeah, so these, so on their side, you can kind of think of this as, you know, they're a market facilitator. So we have, over here, we have borrowers in commercial real estate. Over here, we have banks that can lend. In between is the processing of information, right? So what Credx comes in and does is they do all the loan due diligence, right, as sort of the middle layer there. And then they connect that with a series of a couple hundred different banks to find what is the right avenue for this particular project. So they kind of understand how to connect the market between both sides. So fast forward to where we are today, you know, taking processes that used to take days down to hours, right? And so that stat that we saw up front about improving GenAI by, let's say, 2028 by 30% productivity, they're already experiencing that today, right, in 2024, right? They've already gotten there. And that's going from basically 0 to 90 days to result, which is really exciting to see. At the same time, they've recognized now that this is a fintech opportunity for them as well. So they are packaging up this solution, and they are seeing that, hey, we've walked this road. We've seen how to build this. We're actually now partnered together to help bring this out to other lending institutions, other types of folks in real estate and banking, particularly in the SMB and mid-market size, to package this up as a joint offering. So in some cases, your initial goal might be to save time and to be able to serve more clients and to be able to generate more revenue and more success more quickly. But you also may find that there are other benefits that come out of this as well. Yep, and you can see here the CEO basically speaking to those sentiments that I just shared. I will get used to this clicker at some point. Okay, so we're going to sum it up here because I know we're coming up on time. But you know, come and talk to us today. Would love to meet you guys. Would love to find out what you're working on. We can tell you about how customization works. We can show you how that process actually unfolds with this componentry, these different solutions, and how you can map those to your business. We can talk about leveraging tools like this either on your own or getting help and expertise if that's something that's valuable for you. And sorry, I really promise I will get that right. We are at booth 542. So if you go out from these doors and hang a right and go all the way towards where the meeting booths are on the far right side there and take another short right, we're right over there. So we'll be there all day. Would love to meet all of you. And if you'd like to check out that cool vendor report that I mentioned that we were recently recognized in, there's a complimentary copy there off the QR code. There's also some really other great solutions in there besides deepset that are also worth learning about. These are kind of all the up-and-coming class in AI engineering that are doing things differently, doing things disruptively, kind of changing the game, mainly to help teams be faster and smarter about the way that they build. It's been really, really nice being here together with you guys. Really appreciate all of you joining me, and look forward to having the chance, hopefully, to have some one-to-one conversations today. Have a great rest of your event, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.